Welcome to Buckets. My name is Matt Moore, and I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, and the Golden State Warriors are back. They advanced to the NBA Finals in Game 5, a gentleman's sweep, which you would have heard about on a little show called Heat Check, which we do every single week at Action Network. And we were asked for predictions for the series, and Brendan Glasheen took the Mavericks, and Raheem Palmer, who is no longer with Action Network. If you missed that, Raheem's goodbye yesterday. Wish Raheem all the best, but boy, did he drink that Mavericks Kool-Aid too much, Brandon Anderson, as the Golden State Warriors get the gentleman's sweep over the Dallas Mavericks. They advance the NBA Finals. Today, we're going to talk about we'll talk a little bit about this stuff from a non-actional standpoint. We just talk about like the Warriors and like what this accomplishes and what we've learned from this season with them. We'll talk about that from a betting perspective. We'll give you a little bit of an advanced view. I want to talk a little bit about finals MVP because obviously our odds right now are probably going to be at the best. We'll talk about where the prices are for the potential series that we're expecting between the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. We're recording this on Friday afternoon, so this will not be up until after game 6 of Boston-Miami. We're expecting Boston to advance. If they don't, we're expecting to advance in game 7, even in Miami. We don't see the Heat losing 2 games or Heat winning 2 games in a row. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Everything we talk about can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. The best way for you to track your picks, get up to the second information on where the bets and money are coming in on. You can follow Brandon's picks, including that Jaylen Brown conference finals MVP pick, which is still looking really solid. We did great last night or in the Warriors series overall, except for really, Brandon, they can't win the third quarter? Really? Of all the games, this is the one they can't win the third quarter? Really?
Hey, man, I said the third quarter avalanche was coming. Did you not watch the end of the third quarter? The avalanche came. It just was not the team that I said it was going to be. Dallas Mavericks did not show up the entire game, except for 4 minutes at the end of the third quarter. They went on a 14-0 run and blew our third quarter bet. The entire other 44 minutes, the Warriors were coasting and in control, and I think somebody pranked Klay Thompson. I think this feels like a very don't you think Steph Curry, his version of a prank would be like, hey, Klay, hey, it's actually game 6 tonight. It's game 6, Klay. It's your turn to shine. And then Klay comes out and drops 8 threes on him. Like that feels like the sort of prank that Steph Curry would try to pull off. Klay put him away. Steph, not actually that good. Like he kind of had the Kobe Bryant 15 on 5 of 17. Yay, you're the MVP sort of award. Yep. He earned it on the basis of the series, but not a close game. Steph earned it on the basis of the series is what I'm saying. No comment on the other names involved there.
I would have gone with Wiggins. I still think he was really impactful, and Steph was fine. Steph was good. Like this is the whole thing with Finals MVP is like Steph is like he's going to have good numbers, but if you're looking into the context of how the series felt from any sort of, which I think MVP does matter, I do think you kind of got to look at those type of things. So I'm going to be writing a column about this, about how I don't necessarily like the Warriors are a dynasty, and I'm not here to deny that they're a dynasty. Like this does, like it's the same core. It's Steph and Klay and Draymond and Looney and Steve Kerr. Like that's enough of the key players involved for this to be part of a dynasty. This is going to be 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
6 finals in 8 years.
Thank you. 6 finals in 8 years for your Golden State Warriors. An incredible accomplishment. It's funny because I said this in our meeting. Everyone kind of comps them to the Bulls in the 90s because that's just like the comparison for, I think, every great team. To me, this is a lot more like Magic's Lakers or Bird's Lakers, where it's like they had these years, and they did have like multiple years of making the finals, but over the entire decade of the 80s, they were defined. And it just so happened that Bird and Magic entered the beginning of that decade, right? So like there was kind of a timeline lineup. Just because the Warriors kind of came to power in 2015, really. You can talk about 2013, but I don't. Like they weren't really a dominant team until Kerr showed up. No one wants to mention that, but it's true. And so like from 15, I think through 25, we're going to be talking about like what the Warriors accomplished. I think it is a reminder. Look, I like the Warriors in preseason. I had 2 big bets in preseason, and it was on the Denver Nuggets because I thought the number was insane. Whoops. And then on the Golden State Warriors at 12-1 to win the NBA title. And yeah, I'm going to victory lap, but I'm also going to talk about the fact that Brandon, you and I were the 2 on the pod that were on this. I don't know how much you bet preseason on the Warriors to win the title. I know you had the Warriors conference bet. But it was shocking to me that there was still kind of this like, well, we'll see. And I'm like, This is still Steph Curry. It's still Draymond Green. It's still Klay Thompson. People are talking about, they would be like, well, they're older now. Guys, until you're 35, I don't have worries about the slide. That's where the new modern NBA science is that until you're 35, I'm not especially, or if you're a big man, I'm not especially worried about like a real significant decline. I'll just say this, like hanging the Warriors as this big dog to win the title, Brandon, was patently nuts.
Yeah, look, you were backing them from the start. My Warriors West bet, I looked yesterday. My West Warriors bet was from our podcast at the start of the playoffs. That's the first time I finally bought back on Warriors futures. I didn't have any before that. And part of it was I liked the Warriors coming into the season. You loved them. You loved their number. I liked it. I didn't want to play it early. I thought where I saw the series going is I thought that the Warriors would start out slowly while Klay was not back yet. We thought coming into the season, he'd come around Christmas or something like that. I thought they'd maybe start out slowly and then that you wouldn't want to bet Warriors futures early because they'd maybe take some time to get back into their groove, take some time to get Draymond back looking healthy again, get Klay into the lineup, and then there'd be a value spot late. The season went completely opposite of that. You wanted to bet the Warriors immediately like you did because then they came out of the gates and went 18-2 and crushed everyone and was like, hey, by the way, we're the Warriors. Remember us? Remember we do the thing? We don't have Klay back. We don't have Jordan Poole doing Jordan Poole stuff yet. We're just Steph and Draymond and we're just that good. We're the Warriors. My takeaway from the year is, look, by the time we got there, you remember, I was in more than you at that point, but it was too late to bet it. I was like, Warriors are back. This is the team. This is the title favorite. They're way out ahead. They're ahead of the Suns. They're ahead of the Jazz at the time. That actually was meaningful. And then the Warriors threw us all off the scent because Steph got hurt and Draymond got hurt. And we never really got the Warriors are the Warriors again the rest of the season. So I think a takeaway for me is when a team shows you who they are, you have to take it for what it is. And nobody thought the Warriors were the team we saw in February or in March or when all the injuries were happening. Nobody thought that was the Warriors, but we like let it factor into all of our numbers and perceptions. And we're like, well, I don't know, maybe they're vulnerable or maybe they're old. Like, no, the Warriors were this awesome at the start of the season.
Yeah.
And now they got healthy again. And now they're the Warriors again. So in future years, they are older. We're going to get years where like Steph plays 60 games or 30 minutes a game or something. And we're going to have weeks and months where the Warriors aren't the Warriors anymore. For me, the takeaway is until I see it in the playoffs with a healthy Warriors team, they're still the Warriors. And I have to give them the credit for what they are until they show me they're not.
See, what I think is interesting is I kind of disagree on the notion of them being the Warriors. This is a different team. And I'm going to write about it, not just to like, it's very easy to be like, well, sure. Like they've got Andrew Wiggins instead of Harrison Barnes or Kevin Durant. And they've got, the different bench and all these kind of Sean Livingston is gone, all these types of things. But for me, it's more about this Warriors team isn't as explosive as the 15, 16, 17, 18 teams.
Yeah.
And really honestly with KD, they were never that explosive because their effort level was low because it was too easy for them. They weren't, but they were still able to go on these runs where it was just like, it's over. Like they would hit you with these massive ones. Golden State still has a little bit of that, but it's muted. The best thing about it, I think, is that like Warriors just feel like a normal, great team to me. And like, that's honestly very satisfying to me who hated the prime Warriors run because of how inevitable it felt. I hated feeling like, yeah, the Warriors eventually are going to hit you with a 21-3 run and it's going to be over. They're going to hit a bunch of threes and that's it. Right. This team. And what's impressive to me is that this team is really built on, and this is the difference. This team is built on defense. Yeah. And that 15 team, this team is closer to me to the 2015 team than any Warriors team has been since then, in that they do not have to have insane shooting performances to get by. They were really relying on all the shooty hoop stuff in 2016. That's the nasty secret was winning 73 games. That team under the hood, there were a lot more weaknesses with how that team performed in terms of defense. They weren't quite as good. They were a little bit more vulnerable. Should have still won the title. They were still better than everybody else, but they weren't quite as good. This team reminds me a lot of that 2015 team. And honestly, the board looks a lot like that 2015 year too, in that we have like a lot of teams compromised by injuries. We have like even the Cavs that year weren't awesome. They just weren't an incredible team. The 2016 team was really good. but the 2015 team honestly wasn't. That Hawks team was just battered all to hell by the time that they faced the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Raptors weren't ready, etc. And so when I look at the board, I do kind of think that, yes, like the Warriors should have been a part of it all the way. I still maintained it's one thing I would have felt differently if those, honestly, I'll say this, if the midseason matchups between Golden State and Phoenix had gone differently, I probably would not have been consistently betting them, as I gave them out on, Futures Friday on NBA Bet, NBA.com/NBA Bet a couple times throughout the year, because like, look, they showed they can beat Phoenix. They show they do match up with Phoenix, and their number is decreasing because of these very temporary injuries. Another thing I'll say, I think we should learn, unless you get an injury that is like absolutely 100%, this person is not coming back.
Yeah.
We shouldn't overreact. Like there was never, if you read the context of you have to pay attention or listen to this podcast, because I talked about it. The comments from Golden State on Draymond were never like, we're really concerned. It was like, yeah, there's some back stuff. It's bad. He should be fine. With Steph, it was like, yeah, he's hurt. He should be back. Like you got to read into that stuff and not get so caught up on like, oh no, he's out 3 weeks. And as a bettor, I think that provides value, because while Phoenix was killing everyone, Golden State's numbers dipped, and so we wind up there.
That was the miss for me, is I misread the Draymond news. I believe I said on the Buckets podcast at some point in like March or April, when I felt like the Draymond news just had gone too far south, I think I straight up said they can't win the title this year, they're out. And it's because, like you said, not till you're age 35. Draymond only is, I think, 31 or 32. But Draymond is a big man, and big man injuries, back injuries, like that is bad news, and usually doesn't fix itself. So that for me, when I saw that, and like we know how important Draymond is to the team, I was never worried about Steph. I was never worried about Clay, because I don't think he's that vital to what the team is. I need Steph and Draymond. And I was out on the Warriors somewhere in the middle, because I thought Draymond was cooked for the year at least. And that was my misread, and I missed some of the value there.
So Jeff Sherman, who works over at Superbook, has potential series prices, which he's been kind enough to offer up for these series. Let's assume the Celtics advance. Warriors -40, Celtics +120, right? I'll say this, it's going to be very tough for me to bet Warriors in this next series. That's kind of where I've come back around to. I have basically beat myself into submission on resisting the urge to be contrarian about Boston. That's what I want to do. I want to be contrarian about Boston. I don't think this is a super team. I don't think that they're as good as everyone acts like. I think they had a very easy run to the finals. I have to stay true to my prior, which was Boston has matched up extremely well. The problem, I think, on the series spread that we're going to face is based off of this line, Brandon, I think we're going to get something like Warriors -1.5 is only going to be slightly better than -120. Celtics +1.5, I feel like is only, I'm still going to have to pay juice on it. I feel like we're going to be like, if you want to be aggressive on this series, you're going to have to wager that this is going to be a short series, which based on the matchup, I cannot get around to.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think we talked about this a couple episodes ago. I think a possible edge and way to possibly get an advantage there, we now have seen the Warriors 3 times have a possible closeout game on the road that they mostly no-showed for. The Warriors, this year's Warriors, are 0-3 in road closeout games. Then they came home and took care of business, not necessarily with ease against Dallas, but it was not easy against Memphis or against Denver. So I don't think you can necessarily look at them and be like, well, they didn't care. They wanted the gate money. They got the extra 10 million. They just threw it away and then came home and beat a team they knew they had beaten. That's what we say. That's what we think we saw, but that's really not what happened. Like Denver and Memphis pushed them all the way. But if you think that's a thing, and if you like Boston, or if you're leaning toward the value on Boston, then Boston in 6, which is game 6 is the home game. Golden State will be at home games 1, 2, 5, and 7. So if you don't think the Warriors go on the road to a tough environment and win game 6, and if you do think that Boston would need to win a home game 6 to win the series, that Boston doesn't go on the road in a game 7 winner take all, if you think the home road thing is strong in both directions, then I think you have an angle to play on the series.
Yeah, you make a really convincing argument. You've sold me. I think the best value that we're going to probably find right off the bat. Now, listen, we'll have podcasts breaking this down from every single angle starting on Monday. Like we'll just have like everything that you need to know to bet the NBA Finals. Probably starting Tuesday because Monday's the holiday. So like we'll have lots of stuff for you guys to cover. For you guys to dive into. We'll cover this from every angle. But I do kind of think that, yeah, probably the way to do it is to go -1.5. And if you're like me, probably take the plus money on the Celtics -1.5. And then you can hedge if you don't like the spot when Golden State gets there. If there's an injury, like there's lots of things that we could not know about, right? Like if it's game 6 and the Warriors had gone down 3-1, but they won game 5 and now it's 3-2 and you like the momentum, like whatever it is, right? I lean a little bit towards Boston to win the series. I think there's probably going to be value on it. I don't love the number. I'm not going to love the number. To let you know, like, you've got Sherman, who listed this at the Warriors -140, Celtics +120. What's interesting is that DraftKings, the Western Conference is -140, Celtics Eastern Conference +115. And then exact outcome is what's interesting here. Right now, if you were to bet it, again, we're recording this on Friday afternoon, Warriors to beat Celtics is -110. So I kind of wonder if the instability of not knowing whether the Celtics are for sure going to win that series is kind of caused it. I wonder if this is going to be much closer to a pick'em, which again, I think is just going to make this like a very hard series to bet. Like I think it's going to have to be. I'll dive into all the stuff about the previous matchups. I'm going to go back to 2018 and go from there and try and get a sense for what these teams look like. I lean towards Boston from the Mavericks had never seen anything like the Warriors. And honestly, like the Celtics haven't seen anything like the Warriors either, but Golden State for sure has not seen a defense like Boston.
Yeah, nothing like it.
And if you're able to drag them down into the mud, Boston, I do think, is a little bit better suited for winning tight, ugly, tough shot making games, even though I don't trust their shot makers as much. Let's hit real quickly on Golden State Finals MVP options, because we can bet them right now. Steph Curry is now +110 for a guy that has never won a Finals MVP. Klay Thompson is +1,700, the second closest. Draymond is +1,900. Andrew Wiggins is +2,800. Jordan Poole is +3,500 at DraftKings to win Finals MVP. And that's Kevon Looney is +10,000. So not going to go with as great as Kevon has been. Kevon's been great. I bet Steph, I'll let you know, I bet Steph at 270 a couple weeks back to go ahead and get that number on the board. I wanted that number on the board. I took Jason Tatum after game 3. After game 3. No, 5. It was after game 5 of the Bucks series when they lost. So they had to win 2 in a row. And I was like, I think Boston can do this. So I took Tatum then. So as always, I have prior positions to play with, but I will just say, if I was fresh to the market, I will just tell you right now, my play would be Klay Thompson at 17-1.
That's interesting. So I'm looking at the list of Finals MVPs, and we know like part of the reason that Steph does not have an MVP is because the one year when he was the clear best player on the team and MVP of the NBA and won the title in 2015, that's the year Andre Iguodala got it. Iguodala that season, or that finals, here are his finals winning numbers: 7.8 points a game, 3.3 rebounds, 3 assists on 47% field goal percentage. Suffice to say, that is an outlier on the finals MVP numbers. The previous year, Kawhi Leonard won it at 13 points a game, 13-6. But since 2012, so the last decade of finals MVPs, every other finals MVP has averaged 25 points a game or more. At the end of the day, we still give MVP to the guy that scores all the points, just like we do with a lot of the other awards. We like the shooty hoops guys that get the points. Can Klay score 25 a game and win it?
I will challenge your presumption because you're taking the data and you're working backwards. And this is what I would tell you. We reward the engine of the team.
That's true.
This is the problem. Steph is okay, I'm trying to think how to put this. Steph is the engine in that what he does causes the machine to go. But in reality, there's not one engine. There's 3 different engines. There's the supporting guard play from either Klay Thompson or Jordan Poole. There's Steph Curry and there's Draymond, and those work in synergy with the system. Kerr's system is more egalitarian than any other. I think it's wrong to ascribe and go, the finals MVP has scored 25 points a game, because most offenses are built around a singular engine.
That's fair.
So Jordan was the engine for the Bulls, right? Tim Duncan was the engine for those early 2000 Spurs teams. Dwayne Wade was the engine for the 2006 championship team. Dirk Nowitzki was the engine for the 2011 championship team. In 2014, right, the absence of an engine led to Kawhi Leonard winning it. In 2015, the same Warriors team on the same precipice led to Andre Iguodala winning it, because in the absence of an engine, they gave it to the guy that shut down the other engine, right? Then you have 2017, KD, 2018, KD. KD was more of an engine on those teams than anybody else because they had to reconfigure the entire team around him. Like the Warriors were not the same Warriors team with KD. It is why like KD would go out, and I bet the Warriors to beat the Rockets after KD got hurt, because I knew they would go back to that engine. And so my argument here is Klay Thompson will probably guard Tatum a ton. Klay Thompson will have opportunities to shoot on the switch. They will probably find ways to get Derek White split onto him. Klay has looked really good off the dribble at times. And while you ask the question of 25 points a game, what if he has like a 40-point game, which is entirely possible from Klay Thompson? His highs are still really high. Versus if you're the Celtics, you are the best team alive to guard Steph Curry, because you are the best off-ball switching team in the league. You have clean switches all the way through. You never fuck up your switches, which is how you contain Steph on the relocate. So to me, I think the value is on Klay, then Poole, then Draymond, then Steph, based off of where the numbers are. If you ask me who's most likely to win, I would say, look, it's Steph. It's Steph. He's the best player on on the championship team. I'm with you there. But I do think that the context of how this team plays gives you value on Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, and Draymond.
All of that is compelling. I agree that like Klay certainly can put up huge numbers. Jordan Poole obviously can. I've talked about, I have a pre-playoff 200-1 on Jordan Poole. Draymond, we have long talked about how important he is to this team and the engine he is on both sides of that. I agree certainly on his value. For me, if you are betting a Warriors Finals MVP, based on what we've seen in the 2 months of playoffs so far, to me, it's Steph or pass. Okay. I totally disagree on the order, and I don't think there's great value on it. Like, I understand you're saying we're kind of opposite here. Normally, I would be playing the 17 and 20 to ones because, like, yeah, but couldn't you imagine a 1 out of 20 scenarios where Jordan Poole has the big games and comes through? Yeah, I can imagine that, but I don't think I can imagine any scenarios where the Warriors win the finals and Steph didn't play well enough to be close enough to still get the MVP. I agree that the Celtics are a really rough matchup for him. It's why I think I probably lean toward the Celtics also, like you're saying. Like, this is why I've thought that the physicality of whatever team came out of the East, Milwaukee or Boston or Miami, were the 3 that I've been waiting on this whole time. And I bet on Golden State to lose in the finals. Like, this, whatever matchup I thought was going to be a problem defensively, because I thought it's going to be a problem for Steph. I still think that. So yeah, I just think that we know the narrative is a big part of it. How much, we don't know, but the narrative on Steph for years has been he doesn't have that finals MVP. We know that that's the whole thing. We know now that we've just had 2 years with no Warriors in the playoffs. We might not get any more chances to give him a finals MVP. I think if it's even remotely close, people are going to trend toward wanting to vote for him. And I think that for the Warriors to win a title, his numbers are going to have to be good enough to get him close. Like if there's like, think of this series. You're right. Andrew Wiggins should be the MVP of this series. I said before the series, I thought Draymond should be the MVP. He hasn't been. Wiggins has been awesome. You could make a case Kevon Looney has been awesome, but none of those cases matter unless Steph also led the team in scoring every game like he did and did all the Steph things. So it's always like, well, Wiggins, but Steph. Like it always has to be there somebody else. Maybe Clay or Poole are the somebody else, but Steph or Steph will always be there. And I think he's going to win that argument every time.
I disagree entirely based off of the fact that you have to look at who the voting pool is, man. Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy are likely to be very resistant to the idea because those guys value defense. Those guys value defense a lot. And they really pay attention to, for all the problems with Mark Jackson, they do really pay attention to like what decided the series. And some of this is just like the star performances are baked in, man. Like, yeah, Steph scored 25. Congrats. You're supposed to. You're Steph Curry. But did you decide the series? No. There are other voters that are in print that I think that are long-term guys that have that. You're right. There will probably be like it'd be really good to give Steph one. They take this seriously enough not to fall into that trap because it's not fair to the other players. If you got outplayed, if somebody else is more important, like you could trust these guys not to do that. It's one thing if it's 100 media vote panel and there's a lot of guys that don't take it that seriously. The people at these games will take it that seriously. The people that voted for this will take it that seriously. So I don't think your narrative play is sound here.
No, I agree. Like, I'm not trying to say they don't take it seriously. I just also give those people credit for taking seriously the importance of what this means historically, and that their goal of like, I want to take this vote seriously for this finals MVP, but I also want to perhaps correct the error of past MVPs and make sure Steph has one of these before all is said and done.
No, fuck that. Steph did not deserve it any of the years. I'll just tell you, he wasn't that great in any of these series. He just hasn't been. That's fine. Like, Steph can be the greatest shooter of all time and a top 5 player of all time in terms of his winning and his impact on the game. And we don't have to sit there and just be like, oh, we need to give it to him because he's Steph Curry and the shooty hoops. Like, we don't have to do that. So I just reject the idea that he deserves one because he didn't get the other ones. Win the thing. Go out and if he scores 35 a game, I'm going to be like, yeah, it was him. Like, come on.
He's not going to.
So that's the thing. That's the thing. One other thing, you can get 115 at FanDuel. So if you want to free roll this a little bit, right? The other odds are so long. Take Steph at plus 115 and use that 15 percentage point margin as your margin and take one of the other guys, whether it's Clay or Jordan Poole or Wiggins or whoever. I will tell you, I don't like Draymond in the spot because there's nobody on either team that he would face where Draymond would be so impactful that I
agree
that he's going to be able to get there. Jason Tatum is not going to be like, ooh, let me get Draymond Green switched on me. That's not what's going to happen. They're going to try and negate him. And so Draymond's not going to be able to do the things defensively, and he definitely can't provide enough offense to go the other route.
I agree with that. And Jason Tatum is not going to get shut down so badly that they're like, we have to give Draymond the MVP because he took Jason Tatum out of the series. Like, that's not how the Warriors defend. And everybody knows that. So Draymond is going to be important, but he's not going to have the numbers. We already know he's not going to have the numbers. So, but he's not going to have that other compelling angle. The Iguodala, I guarded LeBron, the Kawhi guarded LeBron. Like, the Celtics don't have that version. Yep. And Draymond wouldn't be the one guarding him or the only one guarding him anyway. So I agree that I think your ordering of the other 3 names is right. Clay is the starter and going to get more minutes and can always put up the 8 threes in a game sort of thing and can put up that 40-point game. Poole's off the bench and Poole can get targeted. And we don't know exactly what he'll look like against a team this good or how much he'll even get to play. So I think between those two, I think your order is right. For me, you talked about the play Steph, and I think the way I'm looking at it, and I was doing the numbers on this earlier, I may have missed the window because I think Steph's number is a little short now because I'm leaning towards Celtics on the series, but because I like Golden State at home in game 1, I was thinking, okay, can I play Steph MVP before the series at plus 115 or whatever it's at, and then wait till after game 1 and come back on Celtics in the series at what I assume would be something close to plus 200, plus 175. Yeah. And that's my angle is I don't know who is on the Celtics. We'll get there in a different podcast if they make the finals. There are more options to win finals MVP on Boston to me
Oh, really?
than there are in Golden State.
Wow.
I think Golden State is stuff for nothing. I think Boston has 3 or 4 guys that I could talk myself into it being.
This is going to be such a good. This is going
We're
to be
different on this.
Yeah, this is gonna be such a good pod on Monday. You've got like 5 minutes of stuff on the Warriors trivia. I want to save it. We'll do like 5 minutes of Warriors trivia and actionable stuff, and 5 minutes of Boston Celtics like extemporanea on the Monday episode. Have yourselves a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy Memorial Day. We'll be back on Tuesday to get you set for the NBA Finals, regardless of who comes out of the Eastern Conference. We think it's gonna be Boston. Make sure to download the Action Network app. You can follow Brandon in that for all of his picks. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time. Let's get buckets.